Well, the question, what is a woman, is one that our politicians and elites cannot seem to answer. They actually don't want to answer it because they have decided that women are not what normal people think anymore. A recent example is a nominee for the US Supreme Court, Ketanji Brown Jackson, famously said when asked during her confirmation hearings, let's take a look.
Can you provide a definition for the word woman?
Can I provide a definition? No.
Yeah.
I can't.
You can't?
Not in this context.
So
I'm not a biologist.
The meaning of the word.
How on earth did the Western world become so confused? Well, here in Australia, the federal court is examining this very question thanks to changes to the Sex Discrimination Act made by the Gillard government in 2013. The sneaky words gender identity were smuggled in, making it illegal to discriminate against anyone based on this subjective attribute. Now, when Sal Grover, the founder of the women's-only smartphone application Giggle, turned down a request from a biological male going by the name of Roxanne Tickle, she was sued and has just recently spent 3 days in the Federal Court of Australia defending her actions. Sal Grover very kindly joins me now, and she's been in demand by media all over the world. This week has been on the Megyn Kelly Show. Sal, we really appreciate you taking the time to be with us here on adhtv. Sal, did you ever think growing up that one day you'd find yourself in court defending the definition of woman?
Not in my wildest nightmare. Never. This is the stupidest thing I've ever had to do in my life, without a doubt. I can't even believe that I turned 40 later this year, and I can't believe that I'm spending my 40th year on Earth just defending the most basic truth that everybody knows, that I'm even going to court for telling the truth.
So Sal, for viewers who don't, perhaps haven't been following this case, your application Giggle, just tell us about why you set that up and what its purpose was.
Okay, so basically, my mum and I got the idea to create an app exclusively for women where women could go to connect to find roommates, freelance work, emotional support. We had lesbian dating on there. We tried to think of sort of any reason why a woman might want to connect just exclusively with another woman in, this sort of woman-only environment. We'd noticed that there was so much misogyny online. I'd experienced it. And when we developed the idea, I had absolutely no idea that there was any controversy over what a woman is. And we were actually sort of abruptly brought into this mess in February. It was February 7, 2020. We were just doing beta testing of the app. We hadn't even properly launched it. Like, that was stolen from us. Trans activists discovered the app on the App Store and Google Play and inundated us with 1-star reviews. Our security measures weren't properly in yet, so they inundated the app with death threats. They were calling women TERFs. Which was trans exclusionary radical feminist. I hadn't heard that term before, so I had to find out what that meant. And basically, it just had changed my life. My world was turned upside down in a day because it was brought to my attention that not only are there actual adults on the planet who are claiming that men can be women, but governments and institutions are backing them. And I can't even describe how much of a shock that was. I thought that, there'd be some people that had like a problem with a female-only app in the sense of like, there is like sort of some guys that are like, oh, don't women have enough? But I thought, sort of they wouldn't cause any problems. I never in a million years expected this.
Yeah, I think reasonable people think there's nothing wrong with there being a space for women. Men like to have their spaces. Big deal, let's live and let live. But this fellow, Roxanne Tickle, he's a biological male. He's changed his birth certificate. He's had some surgery, some other treatments to try and identify as a woman. But that doesn't change his sex, does it? He's still a biological male. And you picked this up when he tried to get access to your app.
Yeah, exactly. So basically, I don't actually remember removing him from the app because men, like as I said, like I was brought into this because we were under attack and men, were trying to destroy the app. And then as we sort of kept going and we're just sort of treading water, trying to work out what was going on, we would get attacked by men or have men just attempt to get on all the time. And some would occasionally get past our like security measures to keep it female only. And Tickle was one of them. But I said, I don't remember removing him because it wasn't an event. We would remove men all the time. It didn't become an event in my life until he called and texted my phone, which was unusual because literally no one else has ever done that. No user, no potential user, no former user, no one. And so when it happened, it scared me. And I blocked his number on my phone. And then I got an Australian Human Rights Commission complaint and found out that this was a man who claims to have had a female, but his birth certificate changed to female. But this is the problem that's happened in Australia, is that basically delusional people have been allowed to change their sex marker on their birth certificate, which is a historical document, and then use that to try and force everybody else to be part of the delusion. And I think that it is an infringement on everyone else's human rights in Australia. So when I got the Human Rights Commission complaint, I said no to conciliation to settle it because their conditions were so absurd. Yeah, no, good on you. And this is the trouble. The Human Rights Commission is an activist organisation that's not interested in normal people's human rights. Now, what does Roxanne Tickle want? I've read that he is suing you for somewhere in the order of $200,000. That's an enormous sum of money. Yeah, I mean, to even fight this in the federal court, because to settle it in the AHRC, I would have had to agree to just let him on, agree to let all men who claim to be women on, and go to sex and gender education, which could only be re-education. And I was like, no, I have human rights too, and I'm going to stand up for them, I'm going to defend them, and by extension, everybody else has human rights. And I felt like I was in a position to stand up for people who don't believe in gender ideology, which is the majority of people. So I said no. Went to federal court. I've had to crowdfund and raise $500,000 to fund that. That's outrageous. And now on top of that, he is asking for damages and aggravated damages of $200,000.
How's his case being funded? So you've had to go to the public and good people. That's an enormous $500,000. Often these activists have got access to taxpayer-funded legal aid through LGBTIQA plus legal services. I know the people suing me have access to that. How is Roxanne Tickle funding his case? Pro bono legal team, and then a grant from the Grata Fund, which is like a social justice warrior legislative challenge fund. Sorry. So the radical left, they look after their own, and this case, of course, is very important to them. So let's just go to the court case now. I was following it as closely as I could through the media 2 weeks ago. How did it feel for you to be sitting in the dock, in the courtroom, and to have the judge, Justice Robert Bromwich, referring to Roxanne Tickle as a woman? The judge was using the female pronouns like her to describe him. Does that essentially mean that the legal system is not on your side?
Well, we'll find out if the legal system is on our side or not in the coming months. It feels when anybody else says it, to be honest, that you're hearing people tell a lie as if it's the truth. I mean, my understanding of the legal system is that you actually have to tell the truth, and that it is a place where evidence and facts and reality matter. So I think that it's absurd that you could even have a court case of a man claiming to be a woman because it's based on a lie. I've always felt that I'm the one here that's telling the truth and being punished for that. I think that somebody can go and a man can call himself a woman in his life if that's what he wants, but I actually don't think the law should have ever been involved in that, because look what's happening. It's punishing everybody else. It's making us have to do expensive court cases. It's put all of women's rights in this country in jeopardy because legislation has been changed that not specifically says that men are women, but it has put gender identity into the Sex Discrimination Act, which has muddled everything, which potentially has put us into a situation where, the law is not on our side. I mean, that's essentially what this case is going to test. It's the what is a woman case, and it's going to see if gender identity holds up under scrutiny in the law, or if biological sex, which was the intention of the Sex Discrimination Act, wins.
Yep. Now, a lot of mainstream Australians will be surprised to even find someone like yourself in court. They're not following these sort of culture war issues. But this could be fixed quite easily if politicians would just correct the legislation. There's been no debate about this. None of us were asked if we wanted to allow men like Tickle to be able to identify as women. This was snuck up on a lot of mainstream Australians because there was no real debate in 2013 when the Gillard government, ironic, Australia's first female Prime Minister, messed up the definition of woman in law. Why don't Australian politicians have the courage to fix this now?
Well, this is the thing that sort of sometimes keeps me up at night. So the Australian Human Rights Commission actually intervened in the Tickle v Giggle case as amicus curiae, which is not completely unusual. They do have a statutory right to intervene in cases and to interpret the law for the judge. So they were doing what is well within their rights, but they are completely on the side of gender. And when they applied to intervene in the case, and their application to intervene is on it's public knowledge, it's on the Tickle v Giggle site on the federal court. They actually admitted that there is a conflict in sex and gender, but then they just go all in on trying to solve it with gender. And it's like, first of all, you can't actually solve the problem with the problem. And second of all, if you guys know that there is a conflict, as a lot of politicians are aware of, why aren't you fixing it? Why are you leaving it to a private citizen to raise $500,000 and then if we lose in federal court, which is very likely, that we have to appeal and go to the High Court, which will be at least another $500,000, but it's the High Court, it will be more than that. Why are you leaving it up to me? I actually don't know if I could ever forgive them because this is actually their job, not only to pass legislation that benefits and protects all of the citizens, but if there has a problem has arisen, fix it. It's not our job to fix it. Like, that's why we pay taxes. That's why we have legislators, for them to do the job. And they've completely dropped the ball on this. There is almost no political appetite in this country to deal with this issue. And a lot of people do just dismiss it as a culture war. And it's like, no. Women are 50% of the population. We need these rights to have equality in society. There are young girls who are missing out on sport. Their private spaces in their schools have been absolutely destroyed by this ideology. It's not an online culture war to us. It is actually our real lives, and we're experiencing the fallout of this every day. And the people who are supposed to help us, the politicians, are doing absolutely nothing about it. I will never, ever forgive them. I don't even know how I'm going to vote anymore. And that was something I used to take a lot of pride in.
Yeah, look, just some things to pick up on what you said is very, very important. So you mentioned the Australian Human Rights Commission. That's a taxpayer-funded organisation. It has a budget of multi-millions. It's intervened on the side of a biological male trying to destroy girls' and women's sex-based rights using our money. The politicians are all standing by like stunned mullets. We have a real problem in this country where we have just let our politics drift to the point where crazy people are running the system, and people like yourself are having to fight this out instead of this being debated in a parliament and resolved properly. I should be letting you say that, but I think that's a summary of what you were saying, and it drives us all nuts.
Completely, because, it was apparent to me from the moment I got the Australian Human Rights Commission complaint that this organisation was not considering that I also had human rights. And then everything that they have done between now and then has confirmed that initial instinct of mine to be true. It is so captured by gender ideology, they're not even willing to hear that they actually might be wrong. And they are wrong. Not only is gender ideology nonsense, but there's a very strong argument that it is unconstitutional to have it in our Sex Discrimination Act. And you're right, this was not voted for. There is no mandate to have this. The whole thing from beginning to end is activist run, and then politicians are leaving it to private citizens to clean up the mess.
Yep.
It's disgraceful.
So Sal, you mentioned earlier you think you might lose in the federal court. So a High Court challenge is on the cards?
Yeah, it's just because it's never been challenged before. You win or lose. There's only two options, like male or female. So you just have to sort of be prepared for it. From the moment that I got the complaint and I was talking to, I sort of got a legal team and we were talking about what the journey would be like, it's always been that this has the potential to go to the High Court. And that being said, even if I was to win in the federal court, there's every chance that the other side would appeal to the High Court as well. So there's a high chance that this is going to the High Court. I'm very just sort of mentally and emotionally prepared for that. So I don't want it to be a shock when it happens, because it will be another year, another sort of full-time job crowdfunding. As you said, it's so much money. I mean, this is more money than most people earn in a year, and you're sort of tasked with having to go and crowdfund it. Is difficult, but it's been the kindness of strangers and their generosity that has made it happen. We've raised $500,000 so far, and sort of we're looking to see if we have to do it all again.
If you go to the High Court, it's going to be a lot more than that. Sal, how can people support your case? You're fighting a battle on behalf of every little girl, every woman in Australia, their aspirations. This is an issue of profound social justice. Shame on our politicians for allowing it to get to this. What can mainstream people do to get behind you and support you financially, and to make sure that this movement resolves this issue once and for all?
Well, I will say it's not, I mean, it is obviously, I come at this for women's rights and for girls' rights, but I think that this is just for men just as much. I think that men are entitled to male-only spaces, and I also think that men are entitled to freedom of belief and freedom of speech. I don't think that any Australian citizen should have to say that a man is a woman when he is clearly a man. I don't want anyone else to have to go through this and have to go through the process as punishment of court. So in terms of helping, there's two ways. One, financial, like donations, they always appreciated and helped. And then also telling people about it, spreading the word, making sure people are informed about it. Because once people are aware that it's happening and that it could happen to them, that all you have to do is say that the man is not a woman, and bam, you are in a very vulnerable position. And that is what needs to change. And that's what Tickle v Giggle will do. So we have a crowdfunder. It's gigglecrowdfund.com, and there's all information about the case, and there'll be updates when we know more of what happens next on there. And I can just say thank you to everybody so far for the support. I'm overwhelmed by it.
Well, there you have it, folks. Go to gigglecrowdfund.com. Sal Grover, thanks for being one of the most courageous people in our nation at the moment. We're right behind you, and we really appreciate you giving of your time in this busy week to speak with us here on adhtv.
Thank you so much for having me, Lyle.
Well, regular viewers of this show and listeners to the podcast will know that each week I speak with Kiralee Smith of Binary, an organisation devoted to protecting girls and women from and children, of course, from the harms of LGBTIQA plus gender fluid ideology. Now, every week there's something new in the space. And of course, this week was the bombshell news out of Western Australia that the Liberal leader there, Libby Mettam, becoming the first leader of a major political party to pledge to ban the use of puberty blockers on gender-confused children. I'll come to that in a moment with Kiralee. But I want to give this segment, this weekly segment, a name. And so from now on, my chat with Kiralee will be called Gender Reveal. Now, the reason for this is because of the irony that we see in today's society, where our elites, of course, are telling children that gender is fluid and on a spectrum. But we have mums and dads everywhere wanting to have and generally share events on social media called gender reveals, where they let the world know whether they are having, wait for it, a boy or a girl. It's a gender reveal. It's a thing. So we need a weekly gender reveal because, as George Orwell said, sometimes the first duty of intelligent men is the restatement of the obvious. Kiralee, welcome to the first episode of Gender Reveal.
That's fantastic, Lyle. I love it. Thanks for having me.
Well, look, let's make sure we continue to reveal the truth about gender each week, as you've been doing for so many years now. Now, Kiralee, as I mentioned, the biggest news in this space, this war on children, is the WA Liberal leader Libby Mettam's announcement this week that if elected, and that's a big ask because they're a rump there in the WA Parliament, the Liberals, she will ban the use of puberty blockers on children. This should be a game changer, shouldn't it?
Oh, look, it really should. And it's absolutely mind-boggling that the Liberal Party have had opportunity after opportunity after opportunity for several years now to do this, but good on Libby for doing that. And look, at least now it is an election issue. She has flagged it, that it is one of the policies that they'll be running on, and let's hope that it gets a lot of attention and attracts a lot of support in Western Australia, because there are families really hurting who have been really harmed by gender ideology. And this issue should be on the table. It should be debated. It should be an election issue. And we'll watch very closely to see what happens.
And Kiralee, the media reporting of this big news, I think the Australian newspaper did a bit of a ring around the Liberal Party in other states. No clear commitments, though, from any of the other states, were there?
I'm shocked, absolutely shocked. But look, it is shocking. You know, I can mock it all I like, but it is shocking that we've got the Cass report, which is, you know, hundreds of pages of evidence that these drugs, these pathways are doing irreversible harm. We've got the UK, the Nordic countries banning these treatments, and our Australian politicians just burying their heads in the sand. It is absolutely ludicrous that they are, feigning ignorance, because they have no excuse. Yeah, no excuse at all.
Kiralee, finally, after a woman having had her leg broken by a biological male playing in the women's soccer, and numbers of lopsided wins by the biologically male-dominated Flying Bats women's soccer team, there's been some strong pushback by the ladies. Tell us the latest.
Well, look, Macquarie Dragons are a female team, and their club did forfeit against the Flying Bats. Now, there's been no official statement as to why, other than they didn't have sufficient players to take the field. So, hopefully we can read into that and understand that they did take that stand, risking a $500 fine and possible further action. And then just on Wednesday night, Tuesday night, this week, Lyle, the Flying Bats, they're in two female competitions. One is the Sapphire Cup and one is the weekend competition. They thrashed and humiliated the Beecroft team on Tuesday night 12-0, with 9 males playing against all of these females, and 9 of them scoring those goals. So, it is time for Football New South Wales to stand up, to man up, and to protect these women. But you know what they've done? They've actually blanked out the names of these male players on their website to protect the men, but they have still let the girls' names all be on full display. It is absolutely disgusting behaviour, and it's putting these young girls at risk.
Shame on Football New South Wales, and good on you, Kiralee, for calling them to man up and protect women and girls. Kiralee, the eSafety Commissioner, Julie Inman-Grant, who is well known to you and you're well known to her, she's our chief censor. She's been all over the news this week talking about how she can censor the internet. She was on a taxpayer-funded trip to the World Economic Forum in Davos. She's ignited a war against Elon Musk and his X platform. Inman-Grant has form in trying to shut down the types of discussions that you and I are having right now. Why should Australians be concerned about her possibly be given even more power under the Albanese government's so-called misinformation, disinformation bill?
Look, this is terrifying, and I think we spoke about it last week, that her budget has now gone from $10 million to around $40 million a year to censor Australians, to limit what we can see and say. She's making no apology. She's not ashamed or embarrassed of it. She's saying the quiet part out loud and boasting about it. All of this came about because Billboard Chris on X posted information about Australians, and she's just gone off the charts, trying to silence him, trying to silence Elon Musk, and by extension silence you and I and everyone else who we need to have reasonable conversations. And she's so afraid of the truth that she's going to employ every bit of power or authority that she thinks she has to shut us down. Well, it's backfired, and as they say, it's the Streisand effect, that she's now drawn attention to the really, I would call it wicked, agenda to control what Australians see and hear. It's very Orwellian, very 1984-ish, and Australians need to fight back. I myself have put in a Freedom of Information request for my name and for binary. I was denied twice because there's more than 2,500 documents with my name on it with e-safety, which just is incredible. The third application, I've narrowed the parameters and hopefully that will go ahead. But the point is, I'm a middle-aged housewife in Australia who's simply speaking the truth about biological reality, and they have flagged me that many times. It really is a scary thing. They're trying to shut me up because they want to shut you and all your viewers up, and I won't have it.
No, it's disgraceful, Kiralee. The E-Safety Commissioner has no business in snooping around what you're doing online. You're contributing to political communication, free debate in this country. But what did you make of Peter Dutton's comments at the weekend where he flagged on the ABC that he may well, as the coalition, support the latest attempt to get a so-called disinformation bill up and further empower Julie Inman-Grant?
Yeah, well, I don't know how they can call themselves the opposition when they don't oppose anything that the government's doing. They are on board 100% with this really draconian, totalitarian agenda. Again, it's about big government. It's about control. The Liberal Party have proven time and time again that they are not about our freedoms. They are not about empowering Australians to live a free and independent life. They want that control. Peter Dutton confirmed that, and I was absolutely disgusted by his words. I'm disgusted by Jackie Lambie and others who have also joined that bandwagon. And, they're treating us like children who can't manage for ourselves what we can see, say or hear, and it should alarm every single Australian.
Yeah, the left headed by Albanese and even, Dutton was critical of Elon Musk, and of course Julie Inman-Grant is gunning for him, but he is really the one who's keeping the social media platforms alive after YouTube and Meta have worked so hard in recent years to clamp down on conservatives and people talking about the things that we are talking about today.
Yeah, absolutely correct. And, this E-Safety Commissioner doesn't want to just limit what is said in Australia, but she wants news from Australia limited around the world as well. It sounds a bit North Korean-ish to me.
It sure does. Well, we've got to keep the fight going for freedom of speech because the radical left want to shut down the discussion about women and girls that we're having here on Gender Reveal. Kiralee, thank you so much for your time. We'll look forward to chatting again next week.
Thanks for having me, Lyle.